This is Dennis Palumbo, author of the award-winning Daniel Rinaldi Mysteries, and you're listening to the Dark and Stormy Book Club.
Hello, and welcome to episode 227 of Dark and Stormy Book Club. Today we chat with Teresa and Bill Peschel. They are the owners of Peschel Press. Enjoy.
I'm Ann Dart.
I'm Tracy Stormy.
And I'm Kathy Knight.
And together we are
It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club,
a podcast for mystery lovers.
Welcome.
If you enjoy our show, please consider contributing to the Dark and Stormy Patreon. By becoming a patron, you will help us create better and quality content. There are also benefits to becoming a patron, such as exclusive content and Dark and Stormy merchandise. Become a supporter at patreon.com/darkandstormybc. Check our website for the link. We appreciate any and all contributions. Thank you.
We would like to welcome to the program Teresa and Bill Peschel. They are the owners of Peschel Press, and we met them at Malice Domestic and found them intriguing. Welcome, Bill and Teresa.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
We're pleased to be here.
When we had the pleasure of meeting you at Malice, we were admiring some of your own work, some being an annotated Sherlock Holmes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been a longtime Sherlock Holmes fan. And when I started Peschel Press and I was starting to do various publishing projects, I wanted to do something in the Holmes line. And I looked first at annotating the original stories. And then I discovered not only was it done twice, but with Les Clare, he even did a 12-volume edition that I thought was pretty comprehensive. And
magisterial.
Yes, magisterial. So I looked around and I noticed that there wasn't much done with the parodies and pastiches. There was a couple books that were out, there were a couple of collections, but nobody had ever really thought of collecting the majority of them and putting them out in an annotated version. And I thought this may be a year or two and maybe take 4 books. And I don't know how many years later, but we're up to something like 8 books, and I've got enough material for another one to come out.
And that's not including John Kendrick Bangs, who wrote an entire series of Sherlock Holmes parodies, and they've never really been formally republished and annotated, and that's waiting in the wings.
Oh, goodness.
We've had some really interesting ones with it. When Conan Doyle started writing Sherlock Holmes, it was a worldwide phenomena very soon after the first set of stories were written, and he didn't like his creation. And so he didn't write very much, but into the breach stepped everyone else. And that's why the first volume, Victorian, covers such a long period of time. All of the other date time group volumes cover 5-year increments. So we run from 1888 through 1930, which is when Conan Doyle died. So that is 7 volumes in all. Then you include Punch, which is everything related to Conan Doyle and not just Sherlock, that was published in Punch magazine. And then we have Blue Plermel, which is the Sherlock Holmes parody stories written by James Thurber when he was a cub reporter in Columbus, Ohio. And they have never been republished.
Oh, wow.
And we finally finished out with the best of, and Bill was very careful to select the stories that were not just the ones that we thought were best, but had not been published in other collections like the ones that Otto Penzler does.
Wow.
And extensive footnotes and period art, and there's really an amazing amount. But Bill did a pretty thorough job of finding everything that was published in English. You did some French translations, didn't you?
Yes, I can include bad French translator to my list of accomplishments. Thanks to Google Translate. There were a couple in French Parisian newspapers that I was able to translate and kind of smooth out the rough text.
My husband is a huge Arthur Conan Doyle fan, and if you go out on our deck at any given time, he's usually, even when he's doing something else, listening to an audio book. and he listens to everything that he ever wrote. And he said some of them have really surprised him, some of the other things that are not Sherlock. He said, and some of them are kind of,
Well, I have to say that's certainly what we've found. I have had the privilege of reading all of the stories and looking for copy editing mistakes, and the quality varies wildly. You have completely unknown people who actually wrote pretty good stories, and then you have people who used to be big names in their time, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so tedious. And they used Sherlock for everything. They used him to sell linoleum and pool cues and to teach you how to use your ham radio setup. It's amazing.
But they're still using him. You still see his picture or something about him in an ad.
I think what the parodies did, because remember, they were published in everything. They were published in church bulletins and magazines and newspapers. They were published a few paragraphs at a time. What they did is they kept him in the public eye so that he was not forgotten. You know, how many people think about the old man in the corner? And he's not a public figure, even though he
was successful in his time.
He was successful in his time and forgotten today. And he's the originator of the trope that you see Nero Wolfe use in those novels of the really wise man sitting in his office, and you tell him the story and he tells you the solution. You don't see him selling linoleum or explaining why suffragettes should be listened to. You don't see that. The parodies kept him in the public eye until now. All you have to do is see Daffy Duck wearing a deerstalker and with a calabash pipe, and you know who that is.
Exactly. Now, also, you've done a lot of Agatha Christie books.
Yes, we did the first 6 books.
Yes, we've done the first 6 novels, starting with The Mysterious Affair at Styles and finishing with The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Let me warn your readers right now, they are only available in the United States because due to vagaries of copyright law, they are out of copyright in the United States, but not outside the United States.
Everywhere except Britain and the European Union.
Yes, they're still under copyright there.
Oh,
and that,
interesting. I did not know that.
Oh, yes. That's why we're able to give you the complete text and hundreds of footnotes and explanatory essays and all kinds of lovely art and the text, as I said. But that's because we're in the United States and they're out of copyright.
Oh, but we couldn't take that to England and sell it.
That would probably be bad.
It'd be sort of like when Lolita was published in France and banned everywhere else. You'd have to smuggle it into your suitcase and make sure Customs doesn't see it. Although I can't imagine Customs would have any idea these days, you know, who Agatha Christie is. So you're probably
you're probably safe. We certainly wouldn't dream of doing it.
Well, actually, I did. There was a Christie scholar who asked me, and I think he sent me some money and I sent it to him. I won't name him for obvious reasons. So there's at least one book. There's probably more books over there in England than we know of, but it's nothing I have anything to do with.
I saw on your website, Teresa.
Yes.
You are doing a compilation of all the Agatha Christie movies.
Oh, yes. It's been tremendous fun.
Tell me about that.
We kind of fell into it because when Bill was doing Styles and then we did, I think Lynx. Lynx was the next one.
Murder on the Lynx.
Murder on the Lynx. We decided that to add to the annotations to review the movies that had been made of the novels. And so we started watching the Agatha Christie movies that were tied in with the novels we were annotating. And one thing led to another, and we started watching more, and the website needed to have regular posts so to keep bringing people in. And so we kind of fell into it. This was at the end of the second half of 2019, I think.
Yeah, because we were watching Crooked House, which is the movie with Glenn Close starring.
Oh, very nice. Well, there is some gratuitous nudity and some really amazing swearing, but they did a very good job with that one. And they improved the ending, by the way.
And Teresa wrote a review, which we put up on the website. And then she decided to do there was another one, maybe 1 or 2. And I'm always looking out for book ideas. I get book ideas because I love publishing books. And I said, why don't we collect these in a book? Which meant all of a sudden we had to be systematic about it, which led to the collection of a list of all the Agatha Christie adaptations, of which we're now at we know of at least 225, including individual episodes of the Poirot series with David Suchet, but we're going to stop it at like 200.
Some of them are going to be more difficult to get than others. We've got a Russian language with subtitles, thank God, of And Then There Were None, which follows the novel, not the play. There's also a Russian adaptation of The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and this one apparently follows the novel, unlike the David Suchet series. The David Suchet series, they didn't usually take gross liberties with the text, but they completely rewrote Roger Ackroyd, and it was just dreadful.
Yeah,
Absolutely
yeah, I
dreadful.
totally agree.
Oh my God. And the quality varies wildly, but I have to say that as with the Sherlock Holmes parodies, that people wrote all kinds of things with Sherlock, what the Agatha Christie films do, no matter how silly or bizarre they are, they remind people of the books, because otherwise you get forgotten. People stop paying attention to you in that great tsunami of books that keep coming out and coming out and coming out. I mean, since you get books on a regular basis, you're sometimes afraid to open the mailbox.
You got it.
Now, speaking of silly and bizarre, did you see the latest Death on the Nile?
Yes.
What was your opinion?
Yes. It looked great. It looked great.
Oh,
However,
the cinematography was wonderful.
Oh, beautiful. It looked beautiful, but the Peter Ustinov one is still the best one.
Yes.
Absolutely the best one. And they actually filmed on board the ship. I pay attention when they film on boats. That ship that they were filming on in the Karnak in Kevin Branagh, almost every bit of that was done on a soundstage. They were not on board the ship, because I know that the Nile is a smooth river, but it's not that smooth. He really took extensive liberties with the text.
You know, the part that just I almost got up and walked out was when he had shaved his mustache.
Oh my God. I mean, the mustache looked like wool roving. Have you ever seen a sheep shearer?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what he was using as a mustache. He was using wool roving right off the sheep as a mustache, and it looked ridiculous. And then he shaved it off, which made no sense whatsoever.
We went to the theater together to see this.
We were so excited.
Oh,
We were so excited. It was going to be, it's going to be really great.
I thought after the mistakes they made with
Murder on the Orient Express,
I thought maybe they've got their act together now.
That was wrong. About 10 minutes in with the dancing and the...
Oh my God, yes.
I told Tracy, this is not going to be good.
I said, Christie is rolling over in her grave.
She must have been. She must have been. That was just terrible.
Kenneth Branagh should apologize to the world.
Well, instead, he talked a couple of months ago, I think it was kind of a trial balloon to see if anybody would bite, that he wanted to do what they call now a Christie-verse.
Oh, I heard.
With Miss Marple and Poirot. And of course, you know, if you look at cards on the table, they actually have Colonel Race and Major Battle.
Superintendent Battle, Colonel Race, and Mrs. Oliver and Poirot.
So Agatha did actually connect all these.
I know she did.
Yeah, not a lot. Now, interestingly, we haven't seen it yet, but there is a Japanese series, an anime series, that has Miss Marple and Poirot together.
Oh, that wouldn't work.
I don't know, because sometimes what happens with the adaptation, so like, let us say The Pale Horse. I have now seen The Pale Horse 3 times, and they are 3 very different movies. Mark Easterbrook is the male lead, and he is very different in each of the 3 versions. The first version that we saw was with Miss Marple. Yes, Miss Marple was in The Pale Horse, and she replaced Ariadne Oliver and Mrs. Dane Calthrop. She took both of their parts, and it worked surprisingly well.
Really?
Yes, it did. It worked actually surprisingly well. Really enjoyed it. Then we saw the 1997 Pale Horse, which was very much a 60s one. And again, they completely rewrote Mark Easterbrook. And if you hadn't read the book, you enjoyed it much more. It was its own thing. And then we saw the Sarah Phelps Pale Horse, which was, again, very different and very weird. But they're all different.
I guess they all kind of work. Didn't you think so?
I think they all worked. They really did all work. Now, you get some that don't work, or they are just truly bizarre. The Sittaford mystery, That was filmed again with Miss Marple, God Save Us, and Timothy Dalton.
Wow.
And Timothy Dalton played Captain Trevelyan. Well, if you've read the Sittaford mystery, you know that Captain Trevelyan never even gets a single line of dialogue because he's murdered at the end of the first chapter.
First chapter, yeah.
Well, Timothy Dalton is made Captain Trevelyan, and so of course they couldn't kill him at the end of the first chapter, and so instead you get this incredibly complicated, bizarre story with Miss Marple because it's Timothy Dalton. He's a world-class ice skating champion. He's a World War I hero. He's an archaeologist, all like Indiana Jones in Egyptian tombs. And then he becomes a war profiteer in World War II. And now he's running for...
He's going to be prime minister next.
Going to be prime minister next. And he has a brief scene with Winston Churchill. And then he meets Miss Marple on the train. And you are looking at, and I want you to say along with me, in the immortal words of
Sir Mix-a-Lot.
Sir Mix-a-Lot, oh my God. At that plot.
I love it. I love it.
It was just, oh, they did strange things. The Marple series was really strange. They would do really strange things. They would put Miss Marple in properties that had nothing to do with her, like Toward Zero, which worked. But they also did, why didn't they ask Evans? It was so bizarre that they were not just out in left field. They were in left field in a ballpark in China. And I am not kidding, because yes, did you know that Why Didn't They Ask Evans had to do with
Child sex slaves.
Child sex slaves in China?
What?
Yes, it did.
Now, we have to distinguish because, of course, there's the original Miss Marple with Joan Hickson.
Oh, yes.
Mostly pretty good. This is the ITV version we're talking about. And they took a few more
substantial liberties. And the quality varied wildly.
I have one question.
Yeah.
And I will only say the name, Margaret Rutherford.
Oh,
they were fun. They were not.
They weren't Miss Marple, but they were.
She wasn't Miss
so
Marple. She
fun.
was her own thing, but they were amusing. Now, the one that was made at about the same time with Tony Randall, truly
ABC.
dreadful.
Yeah.
the alphabet murders.
Truly dreadful. So dreadful. If you remember it, Miss
remember.
Margaret Rutherford had a cameo in it towards the end, and she is disapproving.
Yeah, that I don't. Tony Randall was just playing himself. He really wasn't playing.
We go back and forth about it because, he is a good actor.
Oh yeah.
And if maybe he was better served by the script, and maybe if it wasn't directed by Frank Tashlin, who also directed Martin and Lewis.
Oh yes, Artists and Models.
Yes, he was a comedy director.
He was a comedy director. He was not a mystery director. And having Tony Randall as Poirot taunt the audience at the beginning as Tony Randall the actor is just setting yourself up for failure, I thought.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But it was the 60s, the early 60s.
It was really, it was gruesome to sit through.
Yeah.
Now,
Tiresome. It wasn't nearly as creepy as the Endless Night one, the French one.
Innocent
Lies.
Innocent Lies. Oh God. Oh my God. That was truly horrifying. That was the worst of all of them that we've seen.
Really?
Oh yes, they remade Toward Zero, and then they decided that Agatha didn't have enough plot, so they added an incest storyline.
oh geez.
Now, and this is a French Irish version.
No, it was French.
Yeah,
It was French. And Rosalind was still alive at the time, and she was so horrified that she demanded not only they take Agatha Christie's name off it, and they changed the names of the characters, and they do some plot
Change the title of the
rewriting,
movie.
change the title of the movie, but they actually had to put, I'm not sure can't remember if it was at the beginning, but it was certainly at the end, this has nothing to do with Agatha Christie.
Kind of like
Wow.
inspired by the
That
works
must
of.
be pretty bad. Now,
Truly dreadful. The house was very nice. The house was very nice. It's a very modernist house with a lot of very modern 30s art in it. Good clothes, interesting background. Otherwise, there's absolutely no reason to sit through that. What you should, if you have to watch it, turn the sound off.
who do you think is the best Miss Marple?
Oh, gosh, let's see. I've now seen Margaret Rutherford. Angela Lansbury. This was before she did Jessica Fletcher. And it's very strange watching Angela Lansbury as Miss Marple because you keep seeing Jessica Fletcher.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and,
yeah.
and that's probably the best version of the Mirror Cracked because it's the one in which you can really understand what star power means.
Now, was that with Elizabeth Taylor?
Yes,
Yep.
that was with Elizabeth Taylor.
That was phenomenal.
Kim Novak, Rock Hudson, Tony Curtis. Oh yeah, they
What
were
a
having
cast.
Yeah.
What a cast.
That was the movies. That was when movies were great.
Oh, yes. And let's see. And then, of course, Joan Hickson. Joan Hickson she's very much Miss Marple.
Oh, very.
Geraldine McEwen, it worked depending on the material. And Julia McKendricks, again, it worked depending on the material because some of them were quite good. And some of them, like The Secret of Chimneys, was truly dreadful. They castrated the male lead.
That's horrible.
not on screen.
Not on screen, but if you've never read Secret of Chimneys,
which we do have as an annotated edition.
That's right. We have an annotated edition of Secret of Chimneys. What it really is a Ruritanian romance because you have stolen gems and you have a damsel in distress and you have a dashing adventurer with a murky past and you have the missing heir to a Middle European throne.
Oh.
And of course, a murder mystery.
Of course.
And Anthony Cade, our dashing hero with a mysterious past, essentially is castrated. That's the only way to describe it.
He's just a whiny, sniveling
brat
in the adaptation.
And one of the things with Chimneys, people don't give Agatha credit for what a good writer she was. They say, oh, she writes cozies. Well, she doesn't.
No.
They seethe with passion and emotion. There is humor. It's not out and out funny, but there's a lot of sly, dry wittiness in the humor.
Observational humor, what we call it nowadays.
Yes. And she was widely read and she would parody books. So when you read The Secret of Chimneys, you're seeing almost like Ruritania. There's another one, the one that came after Secret of Chimneys, The Mystery of the Seven Dials. You have to think of that as kind of like a mashup of P.G. Wodehouse and his Bright Young Things and a John Buchan thriller. That's really what it is. It doesn't get respect because people who read it today don't recognize what she was making fun of that everybody back in 1930 would have known.
What did you think of Helen Hayes as Miss Marple?
Oh, I'd forgotten about her. I enjoyed it. I thought she did a very good job.
Which one was that?
She did Caribbean Mystery.
Oh, right. Okay.
And she did that Murder with Mirrors.
Yes, she did the Murder with Mirrors, and that one had, I want to say...
They do it with mirrors?
They do it with mirrors.
One of them had Betty Davis in it.
That would have been Helen Hayes. Helen Hayes had Betty Davis because I think one of the other ones had, God, I want to say Joan Crawford, and that is like so wrong. Joan Collins. I remember distinctly Joan Collins in one of them. But yes, that's right. I'd forgotten about Helen Hayes.
The reason I remember her, my mother was one of the biggest Agatha Christie fans ever. And she was so incensed when she watched that movie. Helen Hayes was smoking.
No, that was not Helen Hayes. That was Angela Lansbury.
I thought it was Helen Hayes.
Oh, no.
Me, when we saw that.
Whatever it was, my mother about had a heart attack.
That was Angela Lansbury. You're seeing her sitting in bed smoking.
I was in the kitchen. She was talking it over with the young detective, smoking and drinking brandy.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with her drinking a little brandy because it was not above drinking a little touch of sherry now and then. But yes, that was Angela Lansbury because I said you have to get a screenshot of that because I just couldn't believe it.
That just struck like a knife in her. Well, we're running out of time, so I need to find out, do you publish works by other authors, and how would they get in touch with you?
We do not take submissions at this time, and I don't know if we ever will because we have so much of our own work to do. Now, what I will say is that it is not actually very difficult to self-publish. And in fact, we have a book on the subject called Career Indie Author, where we talk about the business of writing. But you can self-publish, and it doesn't cost you a lot of money other than the how much do you have to pay to the Library of Congress to copyright? Is it what, $50?
Yeah, something like that. And you don't necessarily have to do that because you do have an automatic copyright when you publish. I like the thought of my books showing up in the Library of Congress database. So it's purely ego.
Definitely.
Yes, yes.
And what we tell people is you can do it yourself. It is not difficult. If you do, just take your time, go slow, be very detail oriented, make sure that every word is the way that you want it, do all of your editing yourself, do as much as you can to make the manuscript as good as you can before you either pay an editor to look at it or go to publish, or before you submit it, if you want to submit it to any traditional publisher. And remember, there are literally thousands of publishers out there, ranging from smaller ones that do maybe 10 or 12 books a year to someone like the Wild Rose Press or Kensington. Kensington does a lot of cozy mysteries. If you make your manuscript the very, very best it can be, you are more likely to possibly get picked up by a publisher. I will also say that if this does happen, read your contract and have your own lawyer vet it before you sign.
Good advice. Before we run out of time, I wanted to also touch on your association with the Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookshop.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Yeah, Deb Beamer has me do events. I do a podcast for her that we do once a month.
That's what I wanted to touch upon.
Yeah.
You interview authors, correct?
That's true. If you're interested, just send an email to Deb Beamer. I talk to her about it and give her my opinions, but she's the one who actually does it. So if you're interested in being interviewed, go to the Mechanicsburg Mystery Bookshop website. You have to Google it because it's not an obvious website name.
And Dark jumping in here. The website for the Mechanicsburg Bookstore is mysterybooksonline.com.
Can you talk about some of the authors you've interviewed?
Well, you just did G. Pandian, and before that it was Corinna Moss.
Yeah, those were the last two, but we also did
Sophie Hannah and Gabby Allen. That's Misty Simon's other alter ego, and Elliot Pattinson, John Gilstrap. I remember John Gilstrap's
John
books.
Gilstrap he's very funny. If you look up that interview, he is a hoot.
Oh, okay.
Sherry Knowlton too.
Yep. I'm sorry.
Oh, we love her.
They're great fun, and Bill had a lot of fun doing them. Your very first one, the very first one right out of the starting gate was Craig Johnson and Lou Diamond Phillips, remember?
Oh yeah, that was an event for the bookshop.
The Western.
Right, Longmire.
Yes.
Longmire, yes.
Yes.
My husband liked Longmire.
Well, he's got another book coming out in September, and he's going to do a lot of book signings across the country. So if you get a chance to see him, definitely, he's one of the best authors out there doing public appearances. He is a joy. You won't be disappointed.
He does a great program. It's very, very impressive. Oh, and if we have a few minutes, I want to say that Deb is going to be doing CozyCon with Kensington on the 8th of October, and we'll be there. And Bill, you're going to be her master of ceremonies, I think, again, are you not?
We're gonna get in touch with her, and we're gonna try to make it up there for that.
Oh, that's great.
That's wonderful. She does a really nice mini convention, and she hopes next year in August of 2023 to get back to doing an all-day mystery convention. She had done one up until 2019 was the last one, and then, well, you know.
That was
the bad time.
Yes, the bad time.
Dark time. Well, Bill and Teresa, it's been delightful talking to you.
We could talk to you guys all night.
Oh, yeah.
Believe me, I can't stop talking.
Maybe after Mechanicsburg, we'll have to have a part 2.
Oh, I'd love it.
Oh, that would be fun. We've learned so much doing the annotated Christies. It's amazing how much there is.
Yes, I'm sure by then you'll have a lot more done that you can talk about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm also working on a book of mystery tropes as well, that I decided to categorize them.
Very good.
Wonderful.
And our Agatha Christie film review book, we'll have it in hand for Malice of 2023.
Nice.
Finished and published. Yes, all 200 some Agatha Christie film
save us
adaptations.
a copy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, you two enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks for talking with us. And we'll see you in Mechanicsburg.
That would be wonderful. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that wraps up another episode. Before we go any further, I would like to express my deep thanks for all the wishes and prayers I received during the illness of my husband and his recent passing. Thank you. It meant the world to me to know that people still care. Thank you. And please listen next week when we have another episode for you. And remember,
Life would be boring without a little mystery.
Bye.